Live from Stadium Swim at Circa Las Vegas.
Here we go, 5 o'clock hour. We go in the not so way back machine. It's time for a Mac attack. A big Mac attack. Circa Las Vegas, Stadium Swim. Thursday night football is coming up. We got college football on as well. Maybe not so interested in the game that kicked off early. ODU and Georgia Southern. That one's 20-0. 10 minutes left in the half. But Syracuse and Pitt are going at it. Pitt is unbeaten. And I don't like Pat Narduzzi. But I also don't like Syracuse. So this is a living hell for me. It's 10-0. 6 minutes in. Panthers lead it. And again, they're 6-0. McKinnell's here. I'm going to get to college football. This is my lifelong dream. Since I was, believe it or not, I realized that college football system was stupid in 1983.
When you were old enough to think for yourself.
Yes.
Once I became a man, I put away.
I don't even know if I was a man. I watched college football and I got to the end of the year and I was like, wait, they just named someone the champion? Like, you don't play it out?
Yeah.
Like, wait, every other sport they have playoffs.
What was the split that I lived through? Nebraska and Michigan in wasn't it 97? Charles Woodson, 98?
97, yeah.
Yeah. I went to the Holiday Bowl the year before inside Tyrone Wheatley. I remember I saw a good hunk of that team, and then the following year, whatever it was, it might have been 95 to 97, and then that happened. And yeah, it was probably similar. I was like 14 years old. I was like, this is dumb. Yeah. Clearly not a winner. Clearly no.
The pageantry.
Yeah.
Shove the pageantry. Yeah. Play it out. Want to see it on the field.
And look at the era we live in now, which is so much further in the opposite direction, right? This is exactly what, well, at least for myself, a lot of us hope for. And being a Notre Dame fan, being, raised in South Bend, Notre Dame is, hopefully always going to be.
We'll get to it. Yeah. You guys control your own destiny. Mm-hmm. They've had a knock against them. But give me like 2 minutes. So we're set up here at Circa Las Vegas, and Big Mac's doing a ton of radio with SiriusXM. He's on the Combat Channel, properly called SiriusXM Fight Nation. I feel like there's a rebranding. Am I right on this?
An actual name.
Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be
Nation?
Well, yeah, it used to be Rush. When we first launched, you were part of that. Obviously,
part of that, yes.
You were OG Fight Mind himself, Las Vegas' own Steve Cofield.
Uncle Steve. I was the old man.
Yeah, you still are.
I wasn't always the bringer of wisdom. I would get a little mad.
Yeah, well, I mean that's why we love you. I feel like that's a prerequisite for being on the airwaves is to yell at people and not get offended. And you're very very good at that. But yeah, it's Fight Nation. We actually have a name. Quick plug: tomorrow I'm on with ESPN. Our pal Andreas Hale. We got Francis Ngannou kicking off the show at 9:00, first hour.
We got to get to,
very excited for that.
Frankie N towards the end of this hour because Dana White had some stuff to say about dream fights and all that. So we'll get some audio on that one. But here's the deal. We've done hundreds of shows together.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're one of the toughest foils that I face. There's bickering. There's loudness. And now I feel like you've just pulled a Nick Sirianni on me. Did you see what Sirianni did 2 weeks ago? Eagles. He starts getting into it with the fans, and then he knows he's going to get tough questions in a press conference. He brings his kid to the press conference. Like, here you go. Come here, Junior. Human shield.
Yeah, I brought a human shield this time for the cabana out here at Stadium Swim.
And I'm a little scared because she's tougher than you.
She's my enforcer. You're not kidding.
Well,
I brought my mom.
Your lessons.
I brought my mom. Yeah, I learned my lessons. That's why I have such a clear sense of respect. And respecting my elders, you know what I mean? That comes from the lady to my left. But no, she just got into town today. Nice. I'm gonna go grab some food afterwards. Figured, hey, Thursday night football. She loves sports more than I do. When the Cubs went to the series in 2016, right? So we went to the White Sox game 1 back in 2005 in the World Series. She went solo to the Indians game against the Cubs. Like she was at the John Wooden game when UCLA lost to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame snapped the streak in the 70s. She saw Magic Johnson play in high school back in Michigan. Like she's seen a lot more stuff than you and I have, and we've seen a lot of stuff.
I noticed that when Brad Powers was on and giving out all the football picks, you were like looking around, headphones off, watching the TVs, waving to people outside. Your mom's on the headphones, like,
oh yeah, she's locked in. She actually listens to you back in Indiana. I don't know why. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Or maybe Boy's not on. What reason would she possibly have to listen to your show if I'm not on? No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, well, you know what? That business taken care of. First, let's talk about Notre Dame.
Let's do.
Because without you around on a regular basis, I don't get enough Notre Dame in my life. And you guys are from South Bend. You were back there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go?
Yeah. What game you think I went to?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. First game in like 10 years. Oh, yeah. Home opener, 73 degrees, tailgated for like 3 hours. Got the perfect buzz. Win it. And I'll tell you what, obviously I'm talking about the NIU upset, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and what was there was a lot of funny things about that day that I could get into. But the best part was as I'm watching with my buddy that I grew up with, my buddy Joel. We grew up since kindergarten together, lived right across the street from me. We had oddly never been, we tailgated a ton of games, but we had never went together. So we go together, perfect day. Like I said, I'm back at the stadium. It's where I grew up. Friends sold programs there. We tailgated in 7th grade. You know what I mean? It's just way of life out there. And throughout the entirety of that game, NIU came out with a great opening run. I think it was like 20 yards. We're like, okay, we'll be fine. Then they score and we're like, okay, we'll be fine. Halftime comes, we're down. Okay, it's fine. They're not actually going to lose to NIU. Even up until that final drive where Riley Leonard threw the interception at the end of the game, I thought we would be fine. There was no way we're going to lose to NIU. But I'll tell you this. I mentioned the 2005 World Series that we went to for the White Sox. We went to the only game that the White Sox lost in that entire playoff run. It was game 1 of the ALCS against the Anaheim Angels and Garrett Anderson, right? I'm hoping that this becomes a similar story. The only game that I go to for the Irish is the game they lost to NIU, but they somehow put on a miracle run and lead their team to a national championship. Because there's 2 things I need, Steve, and I only need one. I need a Chicago Bears Super Bowl in my life, and I need a Notre Dame national championship in my life. So,
what was the tailgating like?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And listen, Notre Dame is not known for their parties. Like, if you get into Notre Dame, you're not necessarily a partier. I'm not saying it's a bad place to go or anything like that. I'm just saying in terms of like game day experience and like, having a party and catching a buzz might not be the best for it. I would say go to IU. Right? Go to Michigan. Go to Ann Arbor if you're looking for that. You'll have a much better time in that regard. But for me, being in the 574, being back in South Bend with all my friends and people I hadn't seen in years, and again, the weather was perfect. It was like 72 degrees. I've had openers where it's like 92 and I'm purple and I feel like I'm legitimately going to die. So it was like, I cannot express to you how perfect the day was, right? Perfect. Best day. It's right up until the end result.
Amazing. I don't think I ever talked to you about the UNLV game I went to cover at South Bend and details. One of the things, and I didn't drive around a bunch, that is quite the difference between the campus and that region.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all parts of South Bend are rough, but that's not Shangri-La around the campus.
No. And
right around the campus is nice. Like I went to the linebacker lounge. Yeah. That was freaking cool. I had old ladies, nothing against older women. But I think that's their stick. They have bartenders there who've been there for like 40 years, and they're like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "All right, these are my people."
I was going to say that's right your wheelhouse. Are you kidding me? Like old lady bartenders who yell at you. Like I feel like that's a prerequisite of your Yelp reviews. You know what I'm saying?
It was one of those like the menu's there. They're like, "You ready to order?" And I hesitated for a second. She just walked right away.
Yeah. What do you want? All right. It's a game day weekend, but we got to keep it moving.
It's a great place.
I mean, it is, and the whole city comes alive. The whole town. But I'll tell you what. So you talk about only going there 2 years ago. I think it was. I felt so bad about missing that trip. I was down in Florida for family obligations. I couldn't be there. I so wanted to show you around the town and maybe go to Chicago, but we'll save that for another time. If you think it's dodgy 2 years ago, you should have seen what it was like 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, really? It's on
before it was never. They never put the church and Notre Dame never put money back into the city. They never built anything up. Student housing, nothing. It was like a fallout zone. It was insane, right? It has gotten exponentially better. And then there's the town of Mishawaka where I went to high school and where I grew up, which is like 2 miles away from the stadium. That's a little bit nicer. It's got like more neighborhoods, more shopping, and all of that. But when you look at Notre Dame and obviously the university, you don't go there to catch a buzz, right? You don't go there to tailgate. You don't go there to party and get ridiculous like that. You go there to be enveloped in the history, in the tradition of, college sports has a lot of lore and a lot of tradition and a lot of history, and Notre Dame is a huge part of that. So I don't know how you can be a sports fan and not make at least one trip there.
No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And whatever that open mall area in front of Touchdown Jesus is, that was awesome.
Did you go to the Italian restaurant, Sunny Italy, that I suggested you go to,
We didn't
where
get
the
there.
priests go. Okay.
We didn't get there.
All right.
That would have been cool.
Hey, you got to save something for the next trip, and I promise you, I
hope
will
there
be
is.
there. I will be there next trip.
So the game, well, first of all, like I said, the playoffs cool because what we're getting is all these stories where it would never happen, right? Like Pittsburgh would have like a 1% chance of 1% to get in, but they're in a position where they can get in the field. Army and Navy converging on what is this, 1952?
It is
right?
really
They're both unbeaten.
to see them.
Now they're in the same conference. They both play Notre Dame. Notre Dame controls their destiny and obviously their own. This game's dangerous.
Sure.
Against Navy. I mean, so against Army because you don't play schools like that on a regular basis. And the eye discipline, you do.
Yeah,
but these games are not easy against the option.
And they proved that. I mean, both of those teams.
Navy's been amazingly competitive in the series.
Yes, they have, especially in recent memory. And you're right, that option, which is amazing that it's kind of like in fighting, right? Where you have this like subpar, just very average fighter, like a Ryan Hall or whoever you want to use, like a specialist, right? That is going out and doing one thing consistently over and over again and having positive results. I don't know how Navy does it.
Against Ryan Hall, right? What was he? Yeah. Was he the heel guy?
Yeah, he was the heel hook
guy. He's a heel hook guy, right?
He just kept doing that over.
That's the thing. You fight him and you're like, I'm on point. This is easy. I'm on point. Like it's easy.
I'm gonna stop the ankle. I'm gonna stop the ankle.
But then like a 4-second lapse and you might have your ankle broken. And that's the thing with Navy, Army, and Air Force. If they have got good athletes on offense and an elite quarterback, they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And you blow like 4 plays, you might get hit with a deep shot or you might get hit with a 40-yard run. And it happens 4 times. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, this is a game?
Yeah, and I will say this. It would be my hope, and I guess the hope of all Irish backers, bettors, and fans, excuse me, that Notre Dame got their trap game out of the way, right? I guess that's the positive that you look at Northern Illinois and you look at that game in the way that it shook the town. I mean, if you the local news reports and the post-game press conferences and when the players were asked about it, it was a very interesting time because, Notre Dame's been around 100+ years, right? They've been in the zeitgeist. They've been a part of sports and specifically college sports for as long as everyone on this planet has been alive. And I don't know if they've suffered a more disappointing loss than that NIU loss, with the expectations being 5th ranked in the country, right? Everything going into it. And then this team, it's essentially like my alma mater, Ball State, coming in and beating you. Like that cannot happen. But the fact that it did, you turn the leaf, obviously you have the Louisville game, right? You're making strides, you're beating these better teams, and you're looking better also. You're looking like a functioning team with a really dangerous 3-headed running attack, right? With Price and Love and obviously their quarterback, Riley Leonard. If you go out there and you use that NIU game as a lesson, which they seemingly have, and you use it as the benchmark for all other trap games to come, I think you put yourself in a good position to obviously make the playoff and go out and do something special. We'll see. Obviously, you got to get through a lot more games and a lot more emotion and potential roadblocks, but I like where the Irish are at.
I got to mention one thing on the negative side about this game, and I hate it with a passion. I hate that this game is not in Annapolis. Yeah. And I know it's a smaller venue. And then I was like, oh, it must be in Baltimore. I'm like, wait, it's in New Jersey?
That's why you should love that.
Well, it's good for you.
That's your
because you guys have, the Northern Jersey especially is like
basically home field.
Catholic high school central.
Yeah,
they've recruited players from there forever. So it's good for Notre Dame, but not that Navy won't have fans.
They will.
But, man, the setup down the stretch here. I'm going to say this because I'm not I consider myself a patriot, but not by the stupid definition of a lot of people now.
Right.
If Army or Navy go unbeaten and Boise State with 1 loss gets voted ahead of them,
we riot.
The voters are terrible Americans.
Un-American communists, basically.
And I
want an investigation. I'm going to bring McCarthyism back, and I want each one of them, right? I want each one of them looked at and run through with the fine-tooth comb because somebody's on the take.
Even the people in Idaho, which probably is the leading state with patriots.
Yeah.
You have to root for Army or Navy to get in over your school. No, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
What a story.
It is. It's
this
fantastic.
is unbelievable.
Now, as Brad Powers highlighted in the last segment, right? They haven't played anybody.
Yes.
Huge test, obviously, against Notre Dame. But here's the thing. They've had that test before, and they've come out on the other end victorious. Now, they've actually got a record and some momentum to back it up. Now, that could mean something in terms of Notre Dame's preparation. I don't know. I'm not on the inside of that.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, if Army or Navy's unbeaten, that will have meant, because there's another quirk here, the AAC title game exists. They're in a conference. They have to play in a title game. They might have to play each other again. But if they get through it unbeaten and Notre Dame is a win on their ledger and they get by the rest of the AAC, Boise. This game. Not only does Boise have to win this game against UNLV, but it's got to do it with style points. They have to blow UNLV off the field because at the end of the year, you could look at Boise's resume and go, pretty good, and Oregon. But Army or Navy could go, hey, Notre Dame is right there. Because I don't know if Oregon is. They're not the number one team in the country. I don't know who is. That's the whole point of having the playoff.
That's also what's great about the playoff this year specifically. As a Notre Dame fan, I sit here and look at, the way it's laid out. I'm licking my chops because in years prior, Saban, Sweeney, the teams they put together were seemingly unbeatable. And we saw that when Notre Dame really showed. I know they beat Clemson a few years ago, but that was an injury-depleted Clemson team. They didn't have Trevor Lawrence. They had like half their defense missing. Clearly the Irish were outmatched in those situations. As we head into this season and we get further along and we get closer to this playoff, I feel like more than ever that they're positioned, and not just them, other teams. That's what's so great. The parity, and I know people have their feelings about NIL. The fact that there isn't that dominant team is really exciting to me. And I'll take it a step further as you talk about Army and Navy and the possibility of them being undefeated and what you would want. I don't think in the 12-team playoff era there should be any undefeated team sitting on the outside of the playoff. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Grambling. I do not care who the university is. If they are undefeated and they have taken no losses, I don't know how you work it out. I don't care, but they have to be in a 12-team playoff. They just do. The O means something. I don't care what their strength of schedule is.
Griffin, I know you and McKinnell share the Bearsdom together, but you're not from territories that are near each other. So I assume, how do you feel about this Notre Dame talk? Like, am I making you sick to your stomach because I seem to be very into the Notre Dame thing?
Absolutely not. Along with being a Bears fan, the classic film Rudy also made me a Notre Dame fan.
Oh, you're a nightmare. You're from Utah.
It's 1993,
right.
Right? Come on.
All right.
He's a 90s big. We get it.
I have to let me get back to my center.
Find your North Star.
Because Notre Dame is not all good.
No.
And I won't mention St. Mary's College. But I will use that because that's a sick story. I will use that as a jumping off point to go in a completely different direction.
Just drop that bomb.
Because I'm gonna throw it out there.
Okay.
You and I texted a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I love TV. I love sports TV. I love sports TV documentaries because I find I'm probably a simpleton and a moron. That's been proven. But I forget and I miss a lot of stuff in the moment. And maybe other people are like that. But as time goes along, you experience these sports stories, but you don't know all the details. And I don't want to say deep dive journalism didn't exist because it did. Stuff didn't come to the surface because social media didn't exist 30, 40 years ago. The Vince McMahon documentary, you and I tweeted or texted back and forth on it. What a giant pile of dung. And there are people who like McMahon who are like, their friends who are like, oh, that was a hatchet job. I'm like, hatchet job? That was a freaking, how many episodes was it? 4, 6?
5, 6.
It was hours of tribute to McMahon with like, oh, but here this like it was a little mention, all of the stuff with women and the fight. The other, I'll tell you the other thing. In my career, if I could have been punched in the face, not by David Schultz, because I remember that one too.
When he snapped a wall,
when he slapped Stossel, he kind of deserved it. But watching McMahon try to intimidate reporters, I don't think I could have sat there.
Yeah, no. You
like
wouldn't have been in Bob Costas' seat laughing at him and kind of playing with the nerves.
I mean, I think Costas did a pretty good job. He did what he could.
He did.
But I don't think I could have. And people out there are like, oh, you would have sat there. I'm like, I don't know.
Maybe
go back and watch the interviews that I did with John Copenhaver.
Yeah. And
listen to audio with Tim Sylvia when he said he was going to smack the sports pig in the face. I don't care. Yep. But that was his existence, was the bully existence,
and he wore that on his sleeve.
He didn't do it like it wasn't shrimps like me, big mouths like me, little guys. He would do it to big guys and ruin careers and ruin lives. And that documentary barely covered that.
Well, that's the thing. I think when you look at the Yes Men and the Pritchards, Bruce Pritchards of the world, and others, right? Even like Triple H and Stephanie's daughter to this day, still don't hammer them at all, really, right? They still, Stephanie, when the day that Vince left the company the first time a couple years ago, led a thank you Vince chant to the live crowd, fully knowing on some level, right, how perverse and sick her father is. And the allegations have been around. Here's the other thing about that documentary. half the people who watched it were like, oh my God, can you believe this documentary? This Vince McMahon guy. I mean, I knew he was wild, but he's a bad dude. And then the other half, people that have followed pro wrestling, right? That know the stories and have heard these. And I'm not even just talking about me being a part of Busted Open for years and knowing guys on the other side of that aisle, right? I'm not even talking about inside information. This is common knowledge. Wrestling fans were like, this was a fluff piece. They did Vince a favor. This wasn't half as bad as Netflix. If they really put their homework behind it and they really told the stories that deserve to be telling and really went out and did their due diligence, other than having, mind you, Monday Night Raw goes to Netflix in January. The flagship WWE show goes to Netflix in a few months on a massive, massive deal. Don't tell me that's not a conflict of interest. Don't tell me you didn't do your due diligence because you still have a working relationship with the company that still loves Vince McMahon. His family is still there. His yes men are still there. On some level, that perverse sort of culture that Vince McMahon established all those years ago, all those decades ago, still permeates. It's better by all accounts and people you talk to. But this dude is an absolute monster. No question about it.
Yeah, I forget who we talked to about it the other day, but in life, you encounter people that you either see or you find out they are horrifying, but they were good to you. And you hear that often where people are like, well, he was good to me. I mean,
and I'll tell you what, and a lot of athletes and a lot of former stars are going out and towing that company line. John Cena's kind of alluded to it. The Rock.
John Cena came off as a clown.
He talks out of both sides of his mouth. He is a master at saying everything and saying nothing at the same time. He's spineless.
Because not many guys went after him.
None.
I mean, Bret Hart doesn't
did.
like him, and Tony Atlas.
Yep, Bret Hart absolutely did. Afterwards, he's like, I am on the record, and I'm paraphrasing here, so be kind to me, right? Yeah. But Bret basically said, I've said nice things about him in the past, mentioned him as a father figure. We certainly had our issues, but I didn't know the extent to which a lot of the stuff this went on. And he's like, he will be mentioned in the same breath as Jeffrey Dahmer. And he listed off all these notorious criminals, some murderers, you know what I mean, some terrorists, really bad people. And Bret Hart, usually, the excellence of execution, the best there was, the best there is, the best there ever will be, is usually on the right side of history. He's a great Canadian ambassador. He's a great ambassador for the art and the business of professional wrestling. And it didn't surprise me. He was the one dude to acknowledge his past. And hey, I said some things that, in hindsight aren't going to look great on me. I apologize for that. Let me set the record straight. This dude is terrible. So it's a scandal that's shaken the industry, and it will continue to, because again, the ripple effects are still there. Triple H, his son-in-law, is still there. They still show his daughter on TV. I made the case when this happened, and I got so much blowback. My friends, the people that, my little pro wrestling group that I hang out with. I was like, they need to blow up the WWE entirely. Strip the name, strip the brand, rebrand it, and fire anybody who had a high-ranking position under that company. If you're serious about being a publicly traded company, if you're serious about giving the proper entertainment to the next however many decades of fans, that name, those three letters are not that important.
But right now, it's what's the overarching company's name? Is it TKO?
Yeah, it's TKO.
With Dana White and UFC.
Correct. Joint. I don't know.
The fans don't care any other sport. They care about the sport. They care about the entertainment.
Yeah. They care about the characters they're invested in. But if you made a switch,
they care about real life,
right? Well, you're not wrong.
And are the fans the ones who are investing? And then for the investors, if they have a buffer in between, or like, rapey, this, that, like, it's not a great look, but it goes away in like 3 days.
Yes, well, 3 years.
Doesn't make money. Yes, then I'm good.
Well, you're not wrong, right? Because they brought The Rock. They brought Dwayne Johnson over. They made a big to-do on Wall Street and made him a part of the board, right? This was all coming out after the scandal was hitting with McMahon. They're doing their best to erase Vince McMahon and that legacy. But for me, for what I know, and it is such a dark, twisted, horrible part of that history that I can't look at the WWE and not immediately think of Vince McMahon. And I can't think of Vince McMahon and not immediately think of the WWE. So I would ask you, is that all worth it? To keep that pain and that suffering and that brand going at that level, to just change a name and to change a culture? I don't think it would have been the worst thing in the world, but nobody agreed with me when I said that. But I still stand by it. I don't think it's worth it.
I'll be a bootlicking scumbag on the way back, so stick around. Ryan McKinnell's with us because WrestleMania is coming here next year. Come and watch it, everybody.
Traffic is brought to you by Port of Subs. Stop in today or order at portofsubs.com or on our app.